Dun, 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 dun. Hola, amigos, to the Tech-Mex Podcast, Season 1, Episode 6. I'm your host, Eric Ramirez, with my co-host, Mando Gomez.
Yeah, I like that intro, man. It always makes me feel like we are in the lucha libre.
Yeah, man, we got to pump each other up, right? So today we're going to be covering the latest in tech, business, and the Latino community. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Dale.
Dale. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're so I, through the magic of production and editing, y'all can't tell, but we kind of missed a week because I went on vacation. So just want to share a few things on my trip. And it's so funny because, it has a little bit to do with, some of the things that we talked about previously in some of the shows. But I did a road trip with my brother and his family and my mom. We took a couple vehicles, did a road trip from Houston all the way to Panama City Beach in Florida. And that drive is like really long. Actually, I didn't think it was going to be that long.
Dude,
it was
just getting out of
14
Texas,
hours.
It takes forever.
Yeah, it does. Well, so we're like, no, there's no way we're going to do that straight. Good thing we didn't, because even the first half of the trip, or I should say the first leg of that trip, what we did is we stopped off in New Orleans. It's been forever since I've been, maybe 20 years since I've been to New Orleans. We went to
I love New Orleans,
Bourbon
man.
Street.
Sometimes in our anniversary, we go there. So yeah, and usually we like to go February, Mardi Gras,
that's a good place.
or on
Good
October.
time.
Believe it or not, October is also fun. It's less crowded, but you see all of the people dressing over for the Halloween, and it's fun too.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that does sound like fun. So we decided to stop there because it's pretty much right in between Houston and Panama City Beach. So, but on the way there, it took us 7 hours. You know what? In my mind, I was thinking, this would be a perfect opportunity for us to take the road trip with the Tesla. I can, do a little bit of feedback on the podcast, but no, like we didn't take the Tesla. It's too small. So we ended up taking my cousin and my mom and well, that was a plan. My cousin and my mom in my car, in the Tesla, but it is too small. Wasn't going to be comfortable to make the road trip.
How many people in total?
So we went with 8 people. So my brother's car, there was 4. Is my brother and his wife, and then his 2 kids, and then my car was me, my wife, my mom, and my cousin. So 8 total, 2 cars. Okay. It's kind of funny. Both my mom and my brother have a BMW X5. So, that was kind of an easy decision for us. We're going to go in the Beamer, in the X5. Where I tried to convince my mom, hey, you want to go in the Tesla? It's going to save us maybe $300 in gas. That might be worth it.
So you're going to have to stay 1 hour.
Yeah, exactly. The charging. It took us still 7 hours to get there in the X5, but it could have been 8 hours or 9, who knows, in the Model Y. But, that's kind of one of the things, though, I thought when buying this Model Y, we'd be able to use it for road trips. But I guess maybe for 2 people, it's going to be fine. But, for adults, it's a little bit not comfortable, I think, enough to do it. So again, I mentioned it before. I really like my Beamers and things like that. And my mom has a really nice one with all the bells and whistles, fairly new. So we ended up doing that. And actually, just a quick thing. When we came back, I got into, back into the Tesla to drive it around, and man, I felt like I was in a little toy car after
really?
driving her car for the week. Yeah. So
it happens with I'm not snobbed at all or anything like that, but when you are driving nice cars and suddenly you rent something, right, that you're in a city, it's like, what the heck, right? What is this? You feel it. You feel the suspension. You feel the wheel, right? How the car feels, doesn't react, right? I don't know, man. It's maybe you get just used to things, right? So, but yeah, I can tell that sometimes if you're from, I guess, an X5, which is a very comfortable type of a luxury car, then you move back to the Tesla. Yeah, I might feel like a little go-kart, electric go-kart.
I did kind of feel that, but I already got back used to the Tesla again. But anyway, well, so back to the store. Remember, I was talking about never get pulled over, never do blah blah blah. Well, guess what? I got pulled over in Mississippi, and it was It was very weird. First of
Why?
all, okay, I had Google Maps running, right? Or it's got the Android, what's it called? CarPlay, AutoPlay, whatever it's
I have
called,
no idea.
where your phone connects to the
Car,
dash.
no, sure,
CarPlay.
CarPlay or
I
whatever.
forget
Whatever,
which
yeah.
one's which. There's one for iPhone, one for Android. Either way, I got Android, so it tells you speed trap ahead, speed trap ahead. I'm like, oh, and it was right at the border, getting into Mississippi. So I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to get pulled over in Mississippi. I've had enough experiences in Houston, whereas maybe more Latino friendly than in Mississippi. And sure enough, bam, right away, like within 2 miles of getting into Mississippi, I got pulled over. Bloop, bloop.
Wow.
It's very weird though. Here's the thing. I put my cruise control because I knew, okay, I saw the speed traps. I put my cruise control and I didn't see anything for a little bit. And actually, you know, they weren't there where Google said the speed traps were, but they were like soon after, right? And I saw he was just I think it was a sheriff. I don't remember, but was parked right off the side, kind of looked ready to go, like he's looking for somebody. You could tell, and I'm like, okay, keep driving. To do what?
to make the quota.
To meet the quota. I think so, right? Well, I think that he probably had something else in mind. And I will tell you this. So I was driving and I see him in my rearview mirror coming out. I was like, oh shit, this is very familiar to me. I'll explain a little bit more, but very familiar to me. You see him pull out. So, of course, you know, there's anxiety, anxiousness, things like that, just because of past history and past run-ins with being pulled over. I'm sure you have your 25 tickets. You know what I'm talking about.
And yeah,
maybe you don't feel the anxiety.
I'll tell you one story once that you finish yours. Okay, keep going.
So anyways, he doesn't come up right behind me. He actually comes up to my corner back on the left lane to me, and he's pacing me. He's pacing me for, it seemed like half a mile or so, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is familiar. He's gonna pull me over, but I'm still on cruise control at the speed limit, no problem. I'm like, there's nothing wrong. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna pull me over. I don't know what he's gonna say, right? Sure enough, I think he speeds up a little bit and he sees me in the window. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to pull him over. He comes up behind me and we pull over to the side of the road. And this dude gets out of his car. It looks like he means business. He's African-American. He's a black guy. And he came up and he looked like very like on a mission, very on alert. And I'm like, man, this guy must think like, he's going to get into something right here. He even did the thing where as he comes up to the side of our vehicle, he puts his fingerprints on the side. Have you seen that TikTok where they they touch your vehicle?
Why they do that?
So, okay. So I had to look it up too, but I remember I had seen it, but basically they want to leave their handprints or fingerprints on your vehicle to prove in case you run. So he had the thought that I may run. Okay. In case you run and they catch you again later, they can prove that it was you they had stopped because his prints are on there. So I had looked it up on TikTok, but I remember it. I'm like, yeah.
To be honest, doesn't make sense because they have cams everywhere, right? They have like the recorders, so they have your license plate or whatever.
Yeah, but I could say maybe I wasn't the driver, or you got the wrong car. Who knows? But that's what they say, anyways. And the dude came up, and I'm like, you know, super calm at that point because I'm like, okay, I didn't do anything, whatever. But again, it's not even my car, so I'm like,
sure.
This is what it's coming up, right? All right, I already know. So I opened the window, and he's like, "Can I get license and registration?" I'm like, "Okay." So I pull my license out, and I'm like, "I don't have registration. Like, I don't know. It's not my car. I don't know registration." My mom's in the back, just like looking for her insurance. So she gives me her insurance card, and I give it to him. I ignored the registration, and he's like, yeah. He said, doesn't look like a vehicle's registered. I'm like, come on, you can plainly see it's from Texas. Maybe it's not in your system or whatever, but that's what he said. He looked pissed. Because I think he wanted to make a stop or discovery. I think he saw the last name maybe on the registered on the vehicle, and he's like, "Oh, maybe they're running," because it's a really nice car. Like,
so do you think that he was profiling?
I think he was profiling. Like, he saw a really nice car, saw the last name, and maybe like when he sped up, like catty cornerback, he looked and he's like, he looks suspicious. That's not the first time I would have heard that, by the way. But yeah, but he looked a little pissed, but he's like, all right. Or he asked me, where are you going? I was like, oh, I'm heading to Florida. We're going on a family trip. He looks inside, this is me and 3 women. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he thought I was trafficking. Who knows? But yeah, you never know. But no, he's like, he looked mad and he just kind of abruptly gave the stuff back and he walked away. Or he said, all right, well, have a good trip. And he left me alone. So again, I didn't think I was going to get a ticket or anything because I knew I was prepared mainly because of the Google. I mean, when you're doing road trips, you're kind of going up in speed, lower in speed, stuff like that. But I had my cruise control.
But something to me happened many years ago. I don't want to interrupt you. What do you want to say?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, several years ago, when I was driving a Porsche, I mentioned it to you. This one was a convertible, so I guess people can see who was driving it, right? So I'm in one of the famous streets in Houston, which is Westheimer, and kind of close to a good area, right? One of the good areas in Houston. So basically, a similar approach. I see the cop. I was not doing anything. I was literally on even less than the speed limit, right? Just regular. And I noticed the same. He actually goes in one side, then he stops, goes in the other side, and then suddenly just pulled me over, right? And asked me to go to kind of like a parking lot. So then the first question that the cop asked me is like, do you know why I stopped you, sir? And to be honest, like, no.
Is this a quiz?
So I'm not kidding you. He goes around the car. He didn't tell me why he stopped me, right? And again, I didn't want to make a big deal about it, right? He goes around the car, and suddenly he's like, do you notice that your license plate is being covered by your frame?
Okay. Like the edges?
So, the edges, dude. The fucking edges, right?
Yeah.
So then he was trying to fish for information, right? So it's like, then he sees me, like literally, he looks at me and he's like, who's the owner of the car? And I was like, me? I'm the owner.
Yeah.
The same, a license and registration. I give the papers. I have everything, right? Insurance, license, whatever, right? So he looked at me again. He's like, all right. So he gives me a ticket for the license frame. I didn't even know that that's such a thing, right?
Really?
Yeah, it's like I literally I usually go and find my tickets, by the way. I go to court. I took a picture of the frame. I didn't do anything. I didn't change it, and I didn't literally do anything. So the judge sees the picture, and like the judge is like, yeah, I mean, you can see the numbers and the whole license plate. You are not covering or anything like that, right? And he gets dismissed, right? $10. But it's just the whole process of I didn't want to pay for something that didn't make sense. Right?
It's a principle.
Yeah, it's a
right?
principle. The principle, yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you that I get some anxiety about it because when I was I grew up I went to school, high school in Bel Air, which is kind of more of a fluent area here in Houston. Yeah. It's its own kind of city within the greater Houston city. And I got pulled over probably six, 7 times there while I was there.
Wow.
Never ticketed, by the way, but just pulled over all the time. Nice cars. And that was, I think, for sure more profiling. I think they're probably more known for profiling over there, but I got I've gotten the whole, you look like a criminal. You look like someone I put in jail before. You have a broken tail light when I don't have a broken tail light.
And he's like, you got the broken tail.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotcha. Did you know it was broken? I've been searched. I've been taken out of my vehicle with passengers.
Did they grab the gloves, man?
Yeah, That did not ask me to bend over, so fortunately, but it adds up over time. Maybe one thing, you kind of now. By the way, I haven't been pulled over in a really long time, and I feel maybe just because we brought it up in the podcast, it happened.
Yeah, probably.
You know how you put it into the universe and it's gonna happen. But I have a lot of history with that. I even got told like, hey, what's I love Nutter Butters. You know the dessert, right? The little crunchy, crispy wafer covered in chocolate.
Yeah.
One time driving, I had one in my car and I finished it and I just had the wrapper there. Couple's like, that's drugs, isn't it? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like that. Is that a baggie with drugs in it?
It's a
I'm
baggie.
like, I said, it's a wrapper for a Nutter Butter. I didn't laugh, but I was like, oh shit, I'm going to jail now. But no. So, that's the only reason why I mentioned it. There's, I've got a little bit of a history with it, by the way, but I don't walk away with tickets or anything like that. I think, I get it. It's a tough job. Don't get me wrong. You have to be on high alert. They're trying to do what's good for the neighborhood, for the people. Unfortunately, it just, puts people of color in kind of tough situations.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you this though, mixed feelings for me, right? My dad was a cop for 25 years, man, in Mexico. So, over there is completely different story, right? But I understand all of the mechanics, all of the, what they have to do. And some of these things sometimes is like for their own safety, right? Like they don't know. I mean, right now they might be profiling, which whatever it is, right? But maybe some people it is, right? Maybe from 1% or whatever it is, the percent that actually is the criminal, and they have the drugs or they have the guns, right? And if they miss it, they are dead, right? I mean, my dad have a couple people that they're friends and something happened, right? So that's the reason why I have sympathy as well and empathy. But sometimes it's pretty sad, the whole situation. I'll tell you that the person that pulled me over, it's funny because I almost don't feel racism towards me, right? I it's only been couple instances that I have felt it, and that time I felt it with that cop. And you know what is the sad point there, man? It was a Chicano. It's like, man, it's like,
like
it's like, I mean, why,
it's like you would think you get a little bit more leeway, right?
For sure. And or just be the same. I don't even want any special treatment, right? Just treat me the same, right? And for those that might not know what is the Chicano, it's kind of like a American of Mexican origin, right? Descent, especially a man or boy, whatever. And I think that sometimes it's like, man, why? Why he was like that, right? When I even show everything, and he stopped me for no reason, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really tough, but but you should mention why you call him Chicano. Like, is that a term that
it is a term
you use
though,
a lot, or what?
And maybe it's my kind of. I was born and raised in Mexico, right? So in my mind, it has a little bit bad connotation. Not sure over here though. I think that here might not, but over there is more like it's like people that they almost, I want to say, have a trauma, because I think that sometimes what happens, and again, this is maybe some of my own opinion, right? Which basically sometimes some people come illegally, right? And they are like in trouble, and thinking that they're always going to be in trouble because they're illegal, they're not able to fix their papers. Then the kids, they're resentful. And again, that's something that a lot of people have that understanding in Mexico, where, well, they have this trauma and they're resentful and they don't like other Hispanics because whatever, right? So it's a weird dynamic, though. What's your take there?
I when I've heard the term Chicano, I usually takes me to kind of the when was it, 60s 70s, where there's kind of the Chicano movement. So it reminds me more of kind of the political aspect of it.
Might be.
I think that, but is it Chicano like a mix of like Mexico and Americano? Is like they mix it together, that's how you get Chicano?
Probably. I don't know the story. But
In my mind, that's how it makes sense. We should probably look it up. But no, just in general, I think the whole Chicano stuff. I mean, I think people always try to categorize other people. Sometimes maybe we shouldn't. And, I say Hispanic. I know some people say Latinx. Some people don't like that term, Latinx. Some people use Chicano. People from Mexico will call, Mexican Americans in the U.S. something. Maybe people in America will call actual Mexican. Well, I guess Mexican, right? Or from whatever country, right? Not necessarily just Mexico. So no, but it's pretty interesting. But I just thought it was interesting that you said the word like Chicano, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I don't use that word very often, so.
Yeah. I mean, neither. And I think that because in my mind it has a bad connotation, right? So, which is like for me and I think that maybe it's also the movies though that that have this gangster, right? Like like a essay, people here they will call it the essay guy, right? Funny story though.
Hey, essay, like that. Okay.
So with the band in the hair, like the.
So, well, I think that culture a lot was from like the LA culture and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And that's the Chicano picture that most of us we have on our minds, right? And at least in Mexico because of those kind of movies, right? Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, have you seen in Japan? There's like this big, I guess you probably call it like Chicano culture or East LA culture, where they emulate a lot of that like culture. I was watching a YouTube video. I'm into cars, right? So I watched some YouTube videos, a lot of car videos, and they have like big clubs like in Japan where they have lowriders and stuff. It's really interesting, and they did the whole bouncing and the rims. And
tell me the truth. Did you ever had your lowrider?
I did not have a low, but I had a system, like a bass system in my car. I had the big
neon?
12-inch.
What about the neon?
I didn't do neon. I just stuck with the speakers, the loud music. So I apologize. Now I'm like middle aged. I understand how annoying that is. So I apologize now for all of that. But at the time, I was like, man, this is so fun. This is so cool. You know why? But, me being a kind of a tech, I like doing all the wiring, the electrical stuff, putting in the head unit and stuff like. By the way, a lot of that stuff got stolen in my neighborhood also all the time. So it's like I might be traumatized from all that. But that stuff is cool with the There's a Rockford Fosgates for y'all that know, the JL Audios.
Oh yeah, I remember those, man. The other one was Kingwood. Kingwood was
Kenwood. The head unit, Kenwood. Yeah, that's true. But I thought that was kind of interesting how that Chicano culture, the East LA culture, the with the bandanas and the flannels, and it's it's taking its own life and outside of LA and stuff like that, and they really into it with all the lowriders and stuff. It was pretty interesting.
Talking about fashion though, and the bandanas. So I saw my daughter; she was wearing a bandana, and then I just moving like a Chicano, right? Like, hey, yes, you don't mess with me because don't you know that I'm loco? And my daughter will start looking at me because she's like 10, she hasn't seen movies or anything, right? So it's like, what the heck with my dad, right? Okay, so with the teenager crazy. Almost look, right? And I said, you don't know that? And then like, sweetie, it's your culture, man.
You gotta learn it. You gotta pass it on, right?
And now it's funny because she actually now she does this when she wants to kind of intimidate someone. It's like, don't you know that I'm loca?
It reminds me of the Cypress Hill, also, right? Cypress Hill. Yeah. Hey, don't you know I'm loco?
Yeah, exactly.
That's also one of the songs you cranked up on the bass with the radio.
Your song,
West Timer. Oh yeah. Well, those are the days. But speaking of a lot about that, what stuck out to me on my trip a little bit, as we got into Florida, got a lot. Not as much diversity. Say, I'll put it that way.
No. Go deeper. What do you mean?
There's not many browns and not many blacks where I was, at least in this Panhandle area of Florida.
Asians, like
no, actually,
like Chinese
now that I
or
think
Indians.
about it, maybe
Really?
not. Not that I remember seeing, nothing that stood out. And now that we're doing this podcast, I try to keep my eye out for maybe some topics we could talk about. So I'm kind of a little bit thoughtful about this stuff, trying to see, do I notice anything? But the only thing that really stood out is, I didn't see too much diversity in those areas. And coming from Houston, or even just in Texas, right, where the Hispanics are kind of the new majority, going to something that's completely the opposite, it's a little jarring. And so, it's like, oh, wow, like, it's pretty interesting. It kind of reminded me back when I was in college. I actually am wearing my A&M shirt today. But in College Station, right, it was in the early 2000s. It's kind of the same way. I know it's a lot different now, by the way, but I think they started this whole new, I forget what the program was, but they wanted to get a certain amount of diversity percentages in at Texas A&M. So I know that has changed at least somewhat from when I've been there, because I remember when I was there, I would get some interesting looks like, whoa, where'd you come from? I haven't seen
Did I tell you the story
before?
In my 30s, I travel a lot, right? Like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those was to go into China. Did I tell you the story when I was on the subway? Man, I felt like an alien, like dude, and not necessarily an alien from the paperwork here.
Illegal alien.
Illegal alien. So I'm in the subway in Beijing, and suddenly I noticed that everyone was staring at me, right? Like literally, like all the eyes were on me. I look around, and literally, obviously, 99% were Chinese, right? So, and literally, that sensation is so uncomfortable. I have empathy for people that they look different, right? Because I was so different, right there. And it's also funny because you have it's kind of maybe a naive impression on myself, on thinking that I have kind of like the thinking that maybe Asians will be short, skinny, like a kind of like
the stereotypes that
the
you have in your
right?
mind,
Like
right?
the movies and all of that, right? And it's funny because over there you see all sizes.
Yeah.
Very tall, very so all of them in the subway. But yeah, it is daunting when you don't have diversity and there is no people like you. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Lots of places it's not like something that it's hard to force, right? If where you grow up, there's, you just get used to not seeing it. And when you see someone different, it can be intriguing. You might be interested. I would say, it's safe to have conversations with folks, be interested in someone's culture and their background and talk to them. And, you'll find out, one, the things that are different, right, about your cultures and things like that, but also what are the things that are the same, and you'll make connections and relationships that way. And that's how you, I think, bridge some of the culture gaps that we might have right now. And there's a lot of talk politically about stuff like that. Again, we kind of stay away from a lot of that here, but in terms of talking about it, but I think that's a good way. Be curious and ask, not in like like you're interrogating someone, things like that, right?
Yeah, it's more like curiosity.
Conversational. Be interested. Learn about
funny that you
things.
mentioned that though, because Japanese and Indian cultures are very, I don't want to say close, but they have very similar principles, right? Even on some of the food, at least for the Indian food, that's the reason why a lot of Indians like Mexican food.
Yeah.
There is a lot of the ingredients. You have tamarind, right? And then for us, it's tamarindo. You have basically mango over there. Also, the mangoes and mangoes, right? So
all the spices, a lot of spices.
All of the spices, right?
Uh-huh.
And kind of a lot of that is interesting, right? On how they just match, right? Our culture.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very true. And I don't know if you remember back when we were both at HP, we used to go to the to the Indian buffet all the time. Remember, at least
Yeah.
weekly that we were going. Those are some of the fond memories I have. Is it's always around food, man. I need to work on my diet, but yeah, that's always like we had a lot of fun and. There was a good amount of diversity there. It was I think when we were HP, we saw a lot of international people. We had
Yeah.
Hispanics, we had
In
African
tech, you have to.
American.
There you
I
see
think
all of these
so.
people from everywhere for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
My
true.
one of my teams though, we have people from Poland, one Korean, Russian, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's very. And when you go to eat, sometimes people will try to decide where to eat, and it's just sometimes it forces you going back to what you were saying of diversity, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes kind of it forces you to try new things because some people like different things, and maybe you will never go to a restaurant that it is like that. Even I remember in HP there was this place for Vietnamese food,
Hmm.
and literally it was real Vietnamese because we can't even understand the waiters.
We
It's
needed
like
our translators we had
they,
within
they, they
within
were
our group,
so
right? Yeah.
Vietnamese, and they actually didn't even take anything but cash, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. That
we
restaurant was
had
pretty good.
good we had good food when we made it a point that became we had kind of like a lunch club if you think
It
about it,
was a lunch club, yeah.
right? And everybody knew you had to be ready at this time. We're all
Yep.
going. Everybody would automatically congregate. It wasn't like we had to like get text people. No, it's like, okay,
Nope.
everybody knows we're
You
leaving at
show
this
up.
time. You show up here. If you're there with the group, we're out. Sometimes if someone's running late, right, they'll text,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
where are we going? I'll meet you out there, whatever. But that was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
I think we had a good time doing that. Again, all around food. But you know what? Food is a good way for people to learn about other cultures, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's one way that people automatically connect with others is experiencing the flavors and the experiences they have growing up. That's what people want to share, and it makes them happy. So those are really cool ways of kind of doing that.
Going back to what I was telling you that I was traveling a lot,
Hmm.
dude. Mexican food is awesome.
Oh yeah.
So I was born and raised in Mexico, so for me it's just daily food, right? It's two,
I
three
thought,
times
what
a day.
taco
Like,
today? What are we eating? Okay.
no, I mean, people had the impression that we only have tacos, but no, we have literally a whole range and platter of foods and dishes, right? Almost each region has their own food. In
That's right.
Mexico, you
Hmm.
have like the food from all of the peninsula, from Yucatan, which is like the all of the Mayan culture, all of that, and creates a great food, right? Or you have the central, or even tamales. People,
Hmm.
they are tamales from Oaxaca, which is kind of the south of Mexico, which they are more moist.
Yeah.
Usually, you are familiar with the tamales that they are a little bit more dry, the normal
Hmm.
corn tamale, but the
Hmm.
ones in the south, they are like kind of put up on banana plantains. So then
Yeah.
they are very very moist, which is they're awesome, right? Anyways, my point here is food is just the Mexican food is just
Hey,
fascinating to
it's
me.
awesome. Hey, you're making me hungry. You know what? Actually, what I made this week, I made turkey mole. It kind of fits in. I made turkey mole earlier this week. I bought at the store. They sell these butterball turkeys. They're like little 3-pound circles, and you just kind of
Mm.
throw them in the oven. And then I got some mole sauce. By the way, shout out to HEB because they just added a new line of moles, and I just happened to see it. I'm like, I gotta try this. It
Are
was
they
pretty
good?
good. They have 3 flavors. One is normal poblano mole. It's a little sweet, and then two I haven't tried yet. There's a red mole and a green mole. So I
Yeah.
want to
For
try
for
those
those
out.
people that don't know what is HEB, is basically a convenience store chain mainly in Texas. I think that their headquarters is in San Antonio. But basically, that one is we love that store.
Yeah.
Like if you're a Texan, it's very likely that you go to that convenience store. It became massive though. It's one of the biggest companies in US, privately held.
Mhm.
I don't know how many billions, and maybe at some point they should go publics, and that way they can start expanding in the country. But
yeah, it's a fan
great
favorite.
combination.
I think they have HEB in Mexico even, don't they? I think I saw
the
a
north
video.
side. In the north side, I think that is Monterrey or something. Yeah, in the north side they do. Probably Monterrey, which is kind of closer to Texas. But yeah, they have fajitas. Their fajitas are great for grilling, right? So yeah, when you are in Texas, you have to go to an HEB and for sure Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's, and I'll add Whataburger to that. You got to do Whataburger.
I don't know, man. You're gonna hate me for
You're
that.
not into Whataburger. No,
I don't like Whataburger.
No, you're crazy, man. Okay, no, you messed it up.
I do prefer Five Guys, by the way. I like Five Guys.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little more plain. Cinco.
Oh man, well, kind of funny. So, well, you know what? So we had a lot of time in Florida. So at nighttime we ended up watching a lot of movies and stuff like that. Have you seen the latest Wakanda Forever? And I kind of like this because I didn't know this going into the movie, but there's a big cameo for the I guess the Hispanic, Mexican, Mayan, Aztec culture. I don't know which one it is, but they have the character called Kukulkan, which it's I did not expect it, but I thought, man, that's so cool. They're trying to bridge the gap, and I think just going back a little politically again, but like for us to be able to make a difference here in the state and have better representation, I think that's a good way. Like the brown and blacks got to partner a little bit more so that we can, help our causes and try to get, the environment that helps us a little bit more so we can catch up a little bit because we're behind in a lot of different metrics. And these are things that would help, I think.
It's like Black Lives Matter and brown power, right?
That's right. That's Chicano culture right there. The brown and proud is, I think, what they used to say for the Chicano culture. But I thought I'd throw that out there. I thought it was pretty interesting. And I had it, actually, I was not familiar with the story of Kulkulkan and kind of being underwater, and he had feathers on his feet. If y'all haven't seen Wakanda Forever, I think that's what it's called. It's the second Black Panther movie, I think. I'm not too much into the Marvel, so I know all the Marvel folks are going to be like, Eric, you got it all wrong. It was like, I'm doing my best here. But I thought it was pretty cool. But one of the things, and something that we watched Avatar also, by the way, we rewatched it, is the kind of the treatment of the indigenous culture and stuff like that. When I was watching Avatar, it kind of made me a little... it evoked some emotions, right? That I was like, I can't believe how the colonizers, right, kind of came in and basically were ready to destroy the whole blue people culture, and over like resources and things like that. And a lot of that, I was like, wow, put it into context of the way things are right now, the kind of political environment, stuff like that. It's like, man, you start thinking, hey, this is for entertainment, but it makes you think and evokes emotions sometimes.
That's what they're doing, right? Trying to the stories that the humans go through. They're almost, I don't want to say set, because you can spin it off in many different ways. But yeah, it will evoke some emotions, right? And that one is for sure. As you said, we always tend to shy away from being political, right? Because we are more into tech. We might not even know better, right? I mean, we're engineers, right? So we are not politicians. So exactly. we might offend somebody. Sorry.
Sorry.
We don't mean it, right? It's like for us, it's just the way that we see
the internet.
It's just to do this on the internet, just make it a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. Well, I'm going to do one last little political thing here, but I wanted to point out, because in one of the previous podcasts, we did bring up the whole DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Like it got banned, I think, federally or something like that. So you're not able to use any of the kind of race and things like that in terms of acceptance into schools. And you asked the question, do you think it'll have any other impact? And I'm like, well, probably, maybe to jobs. We don't really know. Well, there was in the news recently that Texas A&M used to have a journalism department, apparently, and over time it kind of, I guess, died or went away or whatever the case was. But there's a Texas A&M graduate that went on to work at the New York Times. She became very popular and, was awarded a lot of different things. And A&M asked her to come back and try to revive the journalism department. And amidst all of this DEI stuff, her offers that they gave her kind of were not appropriate for what they were asking her to do. I think initially they asked her to be to lead the department and gave her a tenured position. And when you have a tenured position, it's like you're like it. You can't get fired. You do what you want. They're putting full 100% trust in you to do what you need. But over time, with all this DEI stuff that started coming out, and Texas has been doing a lot of things like this to kind of affect this as well. Like they changed her offer and they basically said, no, now we just want you year to year type of contract. And she was like, you know what? Enough is enough. I don't want to be a part of this. I'm out. No, I'm not into it. And it got into the news a lot. And now even the president of Texas A&M, she's like, you know what? It's my fault. We shouldn't have offered her the position. Or I'm not exactly sure, but this is what's coming out in the news. And now she resigned. So she was only in that position for a couple of years. But there's a lot of things that are coming up and churning around here with a lot of that stuff. But a lot of it, they said, is because they thought that she was too woke or she was too much into diversity. This being the professor here or the person they're trying to lead here. So pretty interesting stuff.
Dude, when you told me that you would kind of maybe mention that in the pod, so I put my shirt for the people that are on YouTube. I have my shirt that it says #stay woke. And let me tell you a story though. First of all, let me clarify. I don't have a color, right? So what I mean is I'm not blue or red. I'm very neutral. So I think that both are wrong.
Pretty much, actually, right?
And sometimes they're both right? So, but this shirt, I got it actually from Elon Musk. So as you know, I work with at Twitter for some time, and Elon was my manager there for a few months. And one night, I was in the San Francisco offices. He was there. It was like maybe 2 a.m. Yeah. All right. So going back to the story, I was in San Francisco, and basically what happened is that he gave me the shirt. We were only 4 or 5 people there in the office, left in the office, and he just gave me the shirt, and that's the reason why I have the shirt of Stay Woke.
Stay woke.
Which I'm trying to shy away from being political, right? It was just in my mind an interesting thing, right?
That's so funny. I mean, was it normal for y'all to be up super late in the office and then just kind of
it's one of the things that he works a lot. It's like, you think that you work hard? No, he works pretty hard. Literally, we were there every day, 2-3 a.m. And I will just be exhausted, right? And the interesting part is he was fresh. He just woke up, right? That was the amazing part. Man, I don't know how he has a lot of energy, right? And to be
I
able
wonder.
to just it could be. I will not put supplements,
vitamins,
supplements and vitamins. I do have another friend though. We should bring it to the pod. He said that when you are already in a stage of self-realization in your life, you reach to levels internally that you get high with your own chemistry in your brain.
Very cool.
Your own dopamine, your own hormones, and basically he calls it that you are manic. You're in a stage of being manic, and then you have energy all the time, right?
That's
with
awesome.
Your own juices. Your own juices.
We need to crack the code then and see how we can get to that point.
And my buddy, I actually have one of his books in my shelf. He shout out to Roman Galperin. You can see him and Google him on Amazon. He has a bunch of books in Amazon. He basically calls out Elon is in that stage for basically kind of a self-realized type of a person that is in a manic state where he has lots of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. I might look up to see what some of the stack that Elon uses, see if there's something that I can apply to us. Cause I'm trying to start to do a little body health
Yeah,
biohacking, stuff like that
it's
too.
called body life optimization.
Mhm.
So we should dabble into that. Please, audience, tell us, send us a comment or a message, and what type of topics. But I think that might be interesting
Yeah.
for
Very
people.
cool. Well, I mean, that's pretty cool. Stay woke. By the way, I last time we talked a little bit about there's the new threads that's out there. I took your suggestion out. I got my threads out. I posted the podcast. I got some followers. So I think it's pretty cool. But you know what? In using Twitter, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to start my threads, let me see how this Twitter works. But
Hmm.
it does. I don't seem to get like a very good feed. Like the algorithm or something like that is not
Yeah,
set up right for me.
I think that is just the algorithm right now. How they are making it is only people that you are reaching out. So and usually that's how it works for most of the social medias. Like that's the reason why YouTube and TikTok right now the algorithm is very hungry for content. So
Hmm.
you get exposure to brand new people, right? And in the case of it used to be like that in Instagram where you see very random, right? Not anymore. They only kind of the algorithm position the profile only with the people that they might know, and only if those they kind of start presenting you and giving you traffic. But yeah, it's a tricky. I think that's the reason why if you're starting a new audience, if you're starting a new project, start with YouTube or TikTok. You'll get new traffic. Then you start sending people to other social media, like in this case, Threads or your Insta or Twitter. So that way you start building a flywheel of traffic, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty new to whole social media, so I think I'm starting to wrap up in terms of how does it all work, you know, the engagement, things like that. But hopefully we'll get better. I'll get better over time on how to do that. So I'm really interested in just engaging with people out there that are listening, people that I may know, people that I may not know. I'm pretty interested in
Hmm.
that. Um, so I think I wanted to cover a couple things because I think in some of our past podcasts we've talked a lot about the Cybertruck. So I wanted to cover just coming quickly some of the EV news that happened this week. Apparently, actually, when it first broke, it seemed like Cybertruck had their first production vehicle came out, but it actually seems to be their what they're calling their RC candidate. You want to explain what RC is, Gomez?
Yeah, I mean it's go ahead, go ahead.
Really, okay. This RC is really just the release candidate, right? It's something that
Yeah,
or the Gold Master back at HP. It's something that we had a lot, but it's basically what they believe is going to be their production
it's
version.
kind of like there sometimes they call it the master, right, as well,
Hmm.
which master record. It comes back from you used to have the records, and the master record was literally the original, which they will start doing the clones.
Hmm.
So similar concept.
Yeah. So I got super excited. I'm like, all right, they're starting production. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm getting my Cybertruck here pretty soon, but it is their RC.
For the
So there's
ones
kind
in
of
for the
oh.
ones in YouTube. Is the Tom? No, I think that is the Tom's, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So apparently, there is a new gang sign for the Cybertruck. I think I got it. It's something like this. It's a
yeah,
little
yeah,
goofy, all right. But I saw they had that picture with everybody, and they were all doing their signs there to represent Cybertruck. So I think
yeah.
that's pretty interesting. that they, that we've got a sign now. So as all the
You
back
got
when
a sign, but you don't have a truck yet.
yeah, exactly. Hey, baby steps, right? But it's kind of
Yeah.
funny because back, I used to drive a motorcycle too. People on motorcycles, we always wave to each other, and there's a Jeep culture. I think Jeep people also do it also all the time. I can just see now the Cybertruck people are here, like doing their gang sign to each other as they're driving by. Hey, but at least a Cybertruck should be somewhat autonomous, so it should be safe enough, I think.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, we'll find out a little bit more on cyber, but some of the reports are kind of like the mileage might be a little bit lower than expected, but maybe the price might be okay. So there's been a little back and forth between Ford and Tesla on the Twitter. Elon saying, "Hey, the Ford's kind of expensive." Maybe that indicates that the Tesla's going to come in under. under what the pricing is that Ford has, because Ford just lowered their price by $10,000. So hopefully that's what it says. But Elon said that the Cybertruck should be the first sub 19-foot truck that has 4 doors and a 6-foot bed, really to be able to fit in your garage. I guess that was like a big ask from people, saying, "Hey, I want to be able to put my my thing in the garage, my Cybertruck in the garage." So pretty interesting, anyways. You know what also crossed my mind? I got an email from Elon. I'll call it Elon, Tesla. But I got an email from Elon. He says, "Hey, version 2 of Tesla insurance is out." I'm like, Elon, he must have been listening to our podcast. I think that tweet you sent him worked out. What do you think?
Probably.
Okay, so I was pretty excited about that because I'm like, all right, finally, you're gonna fix all the stuff that I was kind of complaining about. My rate keeps going up, but no. Just this morning, I got another email. "Hey, Eric, your new rate is $220 a month." I'm like, what the heck? Now that's 3 times almost what I was paying previously, just several months ago before I had a Tesla. So this is kind of getting a little ridiculous. I don't know what their new algorithm is telling them, but yeah, I've got to jump off of Tesla insurance. So any of my friends, family out there sell insurance, let me know, because I'm looking for new Tesla insurance and jump off of it, because it's just
let me know which company will insure the Tesla, right?
Exactly. I'm not old money, so I'm sweating the $200 insurance bill a month. So, oh man.
So talking about old money and new money, there's a trend though on TikTok and everything to start appearing like the old money, like how you can use luxury without being flashy, or without like right now, because you see the two extremes, like the grills, like the change, like the Louis Vuitton, like all of that. And you see also the opposite spectrum, which is like almost like a black shirt, right? But it's a Balenciaga, and you almost don't have logos and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's interesting how it's getting polarized, in both the spectrums.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of funny how right, times are hard, obviously, right now with the inflation and everything like that. So I get it. And people, don't want to be kind of flashy, show off. Unfortunately, with a Cybertruck, that is going to be very flashy, I think. Or even with a Lambo, like I had, my backup. Maybe I shouldn't, but it's pretty interesting. But this subtle luxury or subtle aspect of showing wealth, things like that. I saw this interesting article by what's his name? Ramit Sethi. Yeah, that's his name. Talking about what are like the 5 subtle signs of wealth. And I'm like, oh, this is okay. Clickbait. Yeah, I got it. I'm clicking at it. What is this? Like, all right, let's see what he says.
Did you do the test?
Yeah, I'm like, I did the quiz. Here's my answers. And no, of course, some of these might not apply, but I will fill you on so y'all don't have to click if y'all don't want to. But he gave at least there's 4 or 5. But I remember there's like you have a bag for every occasion.
You have maybe a bag not me.
I don't have a bag. Well, okay. Well, I have more than one
like
luggage.
Purse, man.
I don't have a purse. It's a man. What do they call it? Man purse? That's from Seinfeld.
Man
I don't remember. I like Seinfeld a lot. It's too funny. But I think they meant like, okay, luggage, baggage, and really maybe even like purses, stuff like that. But even where it applies to folks that don't use purses, I do have multiple luggage, and not necessarily because I want one for, oh, this is leisure, oh, this is business, or whatever, but just because I keep everything. I'm hoarding it in my closet.
Hoarder here.
It's so good condition. Why throw it out, right?
Sure.
But yeah, no. Another one was like that you have time and money to stay fit. And I'm like, you know what? I think this one's kind of accurate. I think, people that, are going out buying, greens, healthy foods, your fruits, that is some extra spending that you might not normally do, but you probably
I
should
do
be
though.
doing.
I it's one of those things that I don't care on the pricing on organic, right? Also, I have kids,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want all of the like hormones in food, and don't. It's funny because I say some of these things, and people are gonna think that I'm woke, that I'm hippie,
Hippy dippy.
But look, and that's what I'm telling you. Some shit is real, right? Like we know that it has hormones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that you have a lot of labels, right, on the food, etc., etc. So I think that if you start being curious on some of the things that each side is saying, right, even if like the organic food, yeah, just try to eat as organic as it could be. In the house, we have a little area on the land where we grow our own like tomatoes
Mm.
and herbs and all of that, right? So there is a special thing when you are like growing your own food and you eat it. It's not pretty though. It's not like a
It probably
convenience
tastes
store,
better, I'm sure.
but it does taste better. It has there's certain things that we haven't got right, like maybe our strawberries are not as acid, right? So we have to
Mm-hmm.
get better on the soil and the maybe
Mm-hmm.
fertilizer to make them taste better. But yeah, for sure. So I do agree on that point where you have time for gardening, you have time for start
That's
picking
true.
up the bare groceries
Uh-huh.
and all of that.
By the way, you do also have the fridge full of ice cream too. I don't know how that fits into the whole fitness thing.
Dude, I get so much shit because for the people that are listening to this, uh, I have a couple fridges, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is in the is kind of in the back, and that one it has a whole section of ice cream, different ice cream flavors. And yeah, that's what Eric is meaning, right? So, and because when I have guests, I ask them what ice cream do you want, right? And they have like all of them.
All of the flavors. By the way, I think I mentioned to you, I tried the Dr. Pepper ice cream. That was fire. Awesome. I liked it.
You like it?
Tastes just like what I thought it would. Okay, but on the other side of just the food, there's also like the gym memberships and stuff like that.
For sure.
Like people can afford going to the gym, these monthly memberships, stuff like that. You can afford to be fit. I know I can afford to lose a few pounds, but I still go to the doctor and stuff like that to make sure that health stuff that you can't see is healthy. So I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah.
We have jobs, we have insurance. A lot of folks that are from our culture may not have that or have as much access to it as what we
I do
might.
have a friend though. I should bring him as well to the pod. He's developing a test to be able to have different markers. Because if you think about it, in health, there's only a couple things: your temperature, your pressure, and your sugar. Right? This is very lame, to be honest, on the tech
Mm-hmm.
for just to measure how good is your body, right? And yeah, you do blood tests to start actually getting your triglycerides, your sugar, whatever it is, right? So uh, my friend and his company is developing a system which is almost Theranos 2.0. That's what I'm mocking.
I'm like, that sounds familiar. Didn't someone go to jail for that?
Basically, Elizabeth Holmes. Shout out to her in jail.
Listen to Tech-Mex Podcast.
Ese. So yeah, that's literally what I was telling my friend Mike, and he was building it, but he's legit. He's for
Yeah.
sure legit. He got some funding recently and all of that. We should bring him to the pod because he's with his technology, he should be able to get 17 markers for $100.
Oh, very cool.
So it's like, man, you can even almost have every other month test
Mm-hmm.
your whole body, right? Like for men, testosterone, right, and all
Mm-hmm.
of the different markers, even for vitamins deficiencies, mineral deficiencies. So yeah, we
Yeah.
should bring him. But yeah,
Yeah, I
I do
think
agree on
so.
that point too, on the health.
Pretty cool. Yeah, well, I know our kind of healthcare system is kind of funky. Everything has to go through our insurance company, so I think that'll be a big part of that. But pretty interesting. Well, okay, so moving on. The next thing that I thought this was kind of funny. He says people are paying $40 for hand soap. That's another sign of the wealth. I'm like, hand soap, but then
I think that I know what he's referring. If you think about it, your soap is organic. It's like oats. Like you can almost fucking eat your soap.
Hey, it's organic, right? It'll
And
clean
I
you
think
out
that,
from inside and out.
yeah, which is weird for those people that are listening. If your soap is like oats and you almost can eat it, right? Like rice or whatever, and why you decide then your food to be like bad quality, right?
Yeah.
So if all they are like organic and all of that, sure. But if your food is like microwave and your soap is like all organic, there's something wrong.
Yeah, there's some balancing you got to do. But, when I first saw that, I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense to me. But, okay, I'm going to let everyone know I'm a big fan of, what's it called? Bath and
Um,
Body, Bath and Body Works. The
Bath and
people
Body and
that do
Beyond.
the,
Bath and Body and Beyond.
no, that's the other one that's failing. This is the one that does the hand soaps and the candles. I really like the house to smell nice and stuff like
Yes, yes.
that. And I like, the hand soaps to smell good. And they're not $40 each. But I will say when I go there, I usually buy like in bulk. So I'll go buy $200-$300 at a time, probably a couple times a year. So I'm spending probably $500-$600 a year on hand soaps that smell nice. Couple of my favorites are like Sweater Weather. They have the Black Merlot, and then
You know
the
your
matching
soaps?
candles and hey, I'm not fronting here. This is for real. And the candles that go with it. So I can see that. Like you want your environment, your atmosphere to be nice. Actually, here's one that I have. I have this one.
What's the name of it?
Sunset Desert. This is a new one that I tried this time. Really really nice. It kind of has like a woody smell. Kind of makes you think of the outdoors. You're burning a fire, something like that. Really nice. So that's kind of on point there. It's like didn't really realize it, but we do spend probably more than the average person at the store, on a yearly basis. So okay, I'll give them that one too. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
When I went to your place, I gave you a candle too, kind of as a
Yeah.
housewarming.
And it's funny because I had already one burning, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, I do agree. I think that is wealth is not about showing you only money, right? It's kind of making your environment um I guess the word is nice, right? So um yeah, it's around is how it looks, how it smells, pleasant, organized, right? And sometimes I don't think that is about money. Those things are maybe what between $10 to $50, depending. There is ranges, right? So, but yeah, I do agree. This type of things makes the environment to be pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And just to close it out, I think one of the last things that Ramit mentioned was that you can afford to wait around for custom furniture, which again, this is true. Or I had custom couches made my previous house, and here in my current house, we bought furniture to hold us over till we found just the right furniture. We're waiting around. I think that was kind of true, but in a lot of ways, it's because a lot of this furniture can be pretty pricey. You're talking about, $15,000-$20,000 for a leather couch, things like that. I don't think that's all too common, but there's places,
Yeah,
Restoration Hardware, Crate and Barrel, those places have furniture
and
that
sometimes
gets pricey.
there are like people that they hear like what the heck, right? And I think that there is sometimes things like they being not able to afford certain things might even make you poor. And it's like you might be like, what the heck is Mando talking about? What I mean is like, let me give you an example. A pair of shoes or a pair of boots. If you have good leather boots that like even for work, right? Like they are like worker boots. If you don't spend the $600-$700 on $1,000 in your good boots, you're gonna replace them 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right? And maybe are 250 or whatever. Then now you're spending the double of
Yeah.
what a pair of boots will last, right? So that's what I mean when you're sometimes if you cannot afford those, actually makes you even poorer to not being able to afford them.
That's a really great point. I remember when my wife and I bought our first house. I was like, oh, the budget, like this is it. We got to be very, very careful. We bought a lot of used stuff, and bought kind of like cheaper silverware, cheaper plates, or stuff that's hand me downs. Perfectly fine. That was great for us when we were first starting out.
Yeah.
That way, for me, I wanted to allocate the money to something that was going to last, which for me was the house, right?
Yeah.
Allocate more to the house. And then for all this other kind of extraneous stuff, then it's like use hand-me-downs, use stuff that people give you, buy like cheap stuff just to kind of get you by. In my eyes, I'm like, okay, we can replace it, in a few years. But in actuality, a lot of those things are still pretty good quality, and they lasted me a really long time. And now I have a bunch of stuff that I bought early on that's maybe what might be seen as like lesser quality or not as good, but it's still really good stuff actually.
I think that sometimes it's I'm teaching that to the kids, right? Sometimes my younger one, she likes fashion clothes and she likes all of that, right? But I want her to appreciate all of them, all of the ends. And now actually I'm taking her to thrift stores, right? Can we afford all of this money? Yeah, for the clothes? Yeah. Brand new? Yeah. But I also want her to see that the waste, right? Some people, they might just go and waste. And she has seen it. We actually, I took her and I was there. We'll see clothing with tags on them. And I see, and I tell her, do you see, sweetie? I mean, it's wasteful, right? So and let's use it, right? It was already manufactured. It's a grain brand, right? And she likes it. It fits. Like, why not? Then we are trying to break the barrier on mentally, and I think that it has to be with parents and society, right? That they around people that it's okay hand me downs, right? It's okay thrift stores. You use the awareness to figure out, is this actually a good brand? It looks good. It looks new, right? It's like which just use it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, I don't think I ever had anything new, right? I had an older brother, so that's kind of what I would get, and so I thought this is completely normal. This is kind of a good way to make things stretch, and I absorbed a lot of those values. That's why I'm kind of a saver. A lot of the stuff I like to do DIY. Some of it is because I'm a tinkerer. I like to build things and make things, but also just because I like to be a little frugal. But when I do spend, I like to be very intentional about what I spend it on. Things that I really, really like. Like I really, really like these soaps, obviously. So if they want to sponsor me here, I can have some candles up on the background. I'll send them a note.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm not cheap about, my tools. Like for literally like for housework, I'll buy the shit, right? I mean, you see my garage and you have seen it. I have like the tools, right? I like the wall, Milwaukee, whatever, right? So because again, it's the same principle. And again, you can buy it in a pawn shop or you can buy it on eBay or brand new, right? Doesn't matter. But the point is that they last longer. You don't have to buy again and again. When you, in theory, that you're going to be using it a bunch of times, right? So,
that's true.
So the principle is there.
No shade to Harbor Freight. I'm willing to sponsor Harbor Freight as well. I love Harbor Freight. Cheap tools for the win too, but those are for things that like I don't think I'm going to use over and over. It's kind of like maybe once or twice. I'm going to go pick it up from Harbor Freight. But also, DeWalt, man, I've got this super nice miter saw for DeWalt dual bevel. Got the laser, all that stuff. But that was more just because I like tools. I used to do a lot of woodworking. It started back from when I was like in middle school. Actually, I went to competition for woodworking, state competition, stuff like that. I built pool table, lamps. They call it wood shop, the class wood shop. And so, that's kind of where I started in. I still do some woodworking, things like that. I wanted to do my own closets. My wife didn't let me. So like, no, we're going to this is my closet. You're not going to build. I was like, okay. But I wanted to. It would probably take me 3 years to build, but whatever.
Sure.
Oh, man. Well, I want you to close out with some of the questions that we got asked by kind of users, and a lot of stuff kind of was going on this week with crypto. Someone asked me like, "Hey, like I want to get into crypto or a little bit more. Like, what can I do?" Someone asked me, "Hey, there's this person that says, hey, they have a trade bot that I can give them money and they'll put it in the trade bot and it'll give me these returns and stuff like that." Have you ever? I know we've talked about like
Yeah.
us doing it as a project, but have you ever given money like that to someone for them to do a trade bot? Do you have
No, and
experiences
I
around
think
that?
that yeah, for me, stay away from it. It's a very easy way to lose your money. I do recommend people to read The Richest Man of Babylon. It's a book, but one of the I don't want to tell you the whole story, but basically the one of the learnings from it is like if you don't truly understand the investment vehicle, in this case crypto, stay away. It's very likely that you are far away from your money.
Yeah, I would
So
say I lost quite a bit trying to do that. I would throw
yeah,
it out there. I lost over 10 Bitcoin
yeah, so
trying
which is
to
now
trade.
sizable,
So
which is now sizable. I'm not
yeah,
against. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against trading. I'm against giving the your money to somebody else when you truly don't understand uh, things, and as well the whole dynamic. It's okay if you want to trade it. You can learn. You basically level up and all of that. But also there's a risk there, right? You might be able to lose it. But
yeah,
yeah, remember that in crypto, if you don't have your keys, not your coins, which means like literally you are sending the coins to somebody for doing for you. So it's very likely they cannot return it or they will just steal it from you, right? So just
yeah.
be careful.
Yeah, definitely. But and for the beginners, self custody might not be something that's easy to do or might be a little daunting. But go with someone trusted like Coinbase. I mean,
Coinbase.
they're very trusted. So that's what I recommended to this person. Is really right now. What a good thing is right now is a good time to buy. Just in general, we're in an accumulation phase right before kind of the next bull run, or we're starting kind of the bull run right now. So just
Mhm.
buy what you can and hold it. I think that hold for someone that is not super experienced in trading, because it's really easy to lose a lot of money, especially when you're doing it for the first time. Just buy some and hold it, and that's a good way just to gain experience with it, become familiar with the processes, and become familiar with kind of the price fluctuations. Because a lot of people in their first cycle, they're going to get either really excited because they bought on the way up and they think that's how it's always going to be,
Yeah.
and they don't realize that it up till now it's always come back down to a certain point. So but the thought is that just like the S&P 500, over a long enough time period, it's been always going up. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing with Bitcoin specifically. Not these other cryptos that are kind of not as well known. They don't have the same track record, but Bitcoin has gone up consistently over its 14 year life so far, and at a lot steeper, like higher values than
Yeah.
maybe the S&P. But again, this is not financial advice. We're not financial advisors, nothing like that. So
Yeah.
do
We
your
are
own
used to
research
those
and
on the
go.
internet.
Yeah.
That movement from up or down, we need it, and it's basically the technical name is called volatility. You need that volatility to be able to fluctuate in the asset. That's kind of the other word for this is they call it the asset, which is basically the crypto asset. And you want that volatility because if you want to trade it, that's what you need. Imagine if Bitcoin would be like flat for 15 years, right? Like
Yeah.
there is no point, right? So you want that up and downs. But thanks for bringing that up, Eric, because we have seen sometimes Bitcoin losing 90% value, and and as you said, depending obviously if you're a happy camper, if you're on the bottom, right, and then you see that accumulation, right, or vice versa, or in the case where somebody was already at the top, and now they see a discount or whatever, or see their money losing 50%, 60%, and 90%, and you have to have the stomach to weather those cycles, and that's what Eric is
Yeah.
basically saying, right? So just be aware that you may see, and as the asset as crypto gets bigger and bigger, we will see decrease on volatility.
Mhm.
It might not be 90%, maybe in some point might be 50%, then 40% until it becomes super stable, right? Maybe in another 10 years or so. it'll become more stable, and then might be other asset, the interesting ones.
Yeah, that's right. And I want y'all to look up, if you don't know the term diamond hands, look it up in terms of Bitcoin or crypto. That's
Wall Street
safest.
bets,
I think
baby.
that's safest.
Reddit.
I want to do my little logo with like the Wall Street bets guy that's on that logo, right? But, yeah, I think that's good. And just real quickly, just in the news this week, there's actually a big win for the crypto industry in general. XRP, Ripple, they were being sued by the SEC. It turns out that XRP Ripple won that lawsuit. The price of Ripple doubled like when it was first kind of announced. So, but I think it's got a lot of room to grow. XRP Ripple, I think they're basically trying to be the middleman between different currencies. I think both fiat and digital currencies. So they're trying to be kind of the middleman to be able to shift from one to the other seamlessly. And they think the banking industry is going to be the ones that are going to try to leverage them the most. So I think that's what they're trying to say. So that's a great news. It provides more clarity for the crypto industry in general. So more people now know some of the rules that they're able to follow and be able to not be sued by the SEC. So I think really, really good things there. It's kind of funny because my mother-in-law got her into some crypto way back when, right? And she's been into it, and she's the one that actually came to me about, hey, did you hear about XRP, about Ripple? It's about to go double. Someone had talked to her about it, and she got super excited. She's like, I can't buy it though. I don't know why. She had some. I had told her about it a while back, but she was starting to buy more. But Coinbase had delisted it and things like that. But as soon as the lawsuit got announced that, okay, Ripple won that lawsuit, it's that they relisted it. So I was like, go buy some now, and hopefully she can get some of the gains from that going up as well. But I thought it was pretty interesting that even my mother-in-law, she's like the one coming to me like, hey, did you? I'm like, really? No, I didn't know. That's pretty cool. Oh man. Well, I think real quickly, we're just starting out with our podcast, so it's really important for us to or for our audience to like, subscribe, and comment. I think it'll help
for the
us.
Algorithm.
It's for the algorithm. Like the more people that hear, the more we'll be able to continue to do this. I know we try to be as entertaining and informational as possible. So it really does help us. So please do that. Again, also, I have referral links in the show, in the notes, so that, if you are going to use some of this, the links, if you're going to buy a Tesla, use my referral link. If you're going to, sign up for Bankrate or some of the other things that I've linked there, please use my referral link. I think Mando's going to eventually add some things there too. So you can pick between us. That's fine, as long as one of us use one of our referrals. So please take a look at that. Closing thoughts today. I think we covered kind of a lot of things, but there's a couple things that I did want to bring up. Is that again, a little bit political, but Biden administration, I think they just said if you're trying to get your green card and you married somebody here in the U.S., they have done away with the interviews. It seemed interview process, so you can go ahead and get your green card a little bit more easily now, as long as you all your paperwork is good to go. So I think that's pretty interesting there. Anything there, Mando? I know you went through that process.
I think I went through the process. So it might make it more faster, I think, in my opinion. So good job. I mean, I think that's what we want to say.
Yeah, I think maybe there was a little bit of retaliation on that because, in Texas, we heard that there was people pushing people into the water, back into the river. So, you know what? I guess there's one way of doing it and one way of really not doing it. But I think we heard some news about that they're trying to kind of set up blockades and things like that. So,
yeah.
You know what? Maybe there's some strategies that they can do to maybe not be singled out there. What do you think?
I think that I told you this off camera. I'm going through different coaching for improving my accent. So we'll see if it works. For sure, I have been modifying a little bit of my S, which in sometimes Hispanics we use S instead of S, right, for a lot of words, and my D versus T versus the, right, all of these things. And again, it is better for me to be able to communicate through the pod or even to other things, right? So yeah, I
Hey,
think that you just keep learning.
good. It's good practice. You know what? Hopefully, it's something for those folks to take away. If you're practicing your Spanish, that's the best way to do it. Or practicing your English. Well, I guess even your Spanish is practice,
Sure.
practice, practice. So that's one of our key takeaways this week. So thanks a lot for joining us. Remember, go forward, sin miedo.
Sin miedo, and don't get pushed in the river.
That's
Bye.
right.
Peace.
Bye.